podcast Happy at Work. My name is Tatiana Koval. In our podcast, usually we meet with experts from the different countries. And now we meet with experts from a new country for our podcast from Colombia. It is my guest today is Rafael Uribe. And with Rafael, we will discuss a very hot topic, AI and human touch. How to stay human, how to be human in the era of AI. Hi, Rafael.
Hi, Tatiana. Nice to see you all, and many thanks for this invitation.
All right, my first question for you is, as I usually ask my guests, could you tell a bit more about your professional background, your professional experience for our target, for our audience who want to know more about you and maybe follow you later on LinkedIn?
Okay, so a little bit of myself. I am Rafael Uribe. I am located in Colombia. I am an engineer by background, but I've been in human resources for almost 22 years now. Completely in love with the human side of the organizations, but also very passionate about technology and how the new technologies have been transforming our workplace. I've been working I created my own company. It's a boutique consulting firm 5 years ago, dedicated mainly on people analytics. But in the last 3 years, we developed a very dedicated area of expertise on artificial intelligence. So right now we are developing models, helping some companies to establish their strategy on AI and transitioning from the manual work to the AI work.
Mhm.
I'm
Uh,
also a professor in a couple of universities here in Colombia, and something that is important to mention is that one of the areas of expertise that I've been developing is the use of graph theory or the network theory
mhm.
in the organizational setting. So I think organizations are extremely interesting, and collaboration is very valuable right now, especially in the AI times. So understand how collaboration works and how people um, flows inside the company. It's very interesting to be able to use your artificial intelligence tools as better as possible.
Okay, my first questions for you is about is talk about AI and how AI reshaping the culture of organization, reshaping our human life inside the organization.
Yeah, this is a huge topic, and it relates a little bit with what I mentioned before. We used to think on organizations as a formal structure, like the traditional pyramid or the org chart that we have been using for a while. But the reality is very different. The reality is that there are people that are connectors inside the organization, areas that are more connected to each other, areas that are silos. So you need to understand a little bit how the real communication, how the real culture flows into the company, to be able to navigate your own company. When AI started, I don't see AI as a new technology or something like that. It's just I see AI as a booster of everyone's productivity, but that booster is has different levels. So not everyone get boosted at the same level, right? Depending on your job, depending on your task, depending on your closeness to technology. So understand how that new technology, how the AI enters into organization and helps some areas more than others, and understand how the connections changes is extremely valuable. For example, I with the entrance of agents, we will see more connections between our employees to an agent rather than connections between people to people. So we all start having what I call hybrid or hybrid organizations, not the hybrid that we used to have. It means that the people work at home or people work at the office. I see more a hybrid organization between agents and humans, and we need to understand those interactions. When you in the old world, when you had only humans, the cultural things were a little bit easier or something like that, because you can like spread a message and like get people aligned with the same culture. But right now the interactions are going to be different because we will have some agents in the middle. So I would say that one of the things that will change the most is the culture of the organization, and also the way people work. With the entrance of agents, an employee will have some tasks delegated to agents and some tasks that still remain human. So we need to understand very, very deeply, where do we add value? And that's pretty much the main question that we need to answer right now. Where do humans add value? Where do agents add value? And how we can connect both to add the greater value to the organization. That's the first analysis that we need to start doing, so we can build a culture that extracts that value in the future.
Right, it's very interesting topic. What agents become our new employees today. But I want to back to the human and human side of this. As you said in the past, we came to other employees and asked something, and now we could go to agents, to AI, and ask this. So that could erode our connections between employees. They could also have impact on our culture. So looking for this future, when we will understand that with the more and more agents will collaborate inside the organization, what should we do as a leaders, as a human resource or person inside the organization for keeping our culture, for developing our culture, for helping people stay connected in this situation and feeling what they are belong to this organization. So this is how to say this human connection from one side and say the culture, and also from our side to have the advantages of the new technologies. What could you recommend?
I I was like when you were mentioning that, I just came out to a question that I haven't answered before to my mind, is that if we can say that the agents that we are creating will have a culture. And I don't think they will have a culture. We will give them some instructions to do a specific task, but that's not a culture. So the more technology we enter in the workplace, the more humans we need to remain. But it's important to understand that we as a humans, we will still be in the workplace for at least a couple of years more. Um, but the agents are gonna be around, even shaping the culture. But it's important to understand that they will be shaping the culture, but they don't have a culture by themselves. So the way we program those agents, the way we set up those agents will be, and this is something that I'm just like having in my mind right this moment, is extremely important, because if you don't set the instructions of the agents, if you don't set correctly the agents, you will destroy somehow the culture of your company, because the interactions will not be all the time people to people, but will be people to agents and agents to people or something like that. So what I will say is that the company needs to understand where humans are really at really value, and what else can be outsourced or can be like delegated to agents. um, but that's a very complicated question. I always say, for example, in the sales area, if you are a salesman, yeah, you need to like get prospects or get leads, but that's something that an agent could do very, very good. The agent could also analyze the leads to understand how you prepare for that sales meeting. The agent could also summarize the meeting and create your action plans and even create the presentation for the client. The agent could upload all the information into the CRM to be able to track all the sales interaction. But what you cannot outsource or delegate is the human interaction, is the sales meeting, right? Is the moment where you are heart to heart or people to people, when you are building a relationship, where you are building a connection with the buyer or the other side, and you are creating something that is bigger the transactional activities of the sales process. So if we think on that, AI could boost our processes. In this case, in the sales example, it could boost your sales process because it will give you time for the time that you're spending analyzing the leads, preparing for the meeting, and doing summaries, uploading information into the CRM. That time that is the AI is leaving or is giving you back, you have to spend it in a real connection with the customer or the client that you are trying to serve. Instead of a very rush 30 minutes meeting, very hurry because you have a lot of stuff to do, you develop a long relation with a 2 hours meeting, understanding the person, understanding their needs, and building relations. I think that's a good example of where humans are still needed and where is the value added of the human and where is the value added of the machine that is doing summaries, transcribing information from one system to another system, and researching and all that stuff. So if we take that into culture, it's extremely interesting to understand that the human side, the human activity that we do, are the more are the I'm not sure how to say it, but are the more cultural oriented activities, right? Are the ones where culture max out or is more important, right? So in this case, you don't need a lot of culture for transcribing a summary of a meeting. You don't like your culture is not very important analyzing leads. Your culture is not important. I don't know, transcript putting information into the CRM, but your culture, your corporate culture, is extremely important in your sales meeting. So just summarizing what I said, we are taking a lot of parts of our processes and putting them into agents. Those parts are the parts that where the agents add more value, and we don't do that. Um, but the parts where we remain human are the parts that are more culturally oriented or more culturally connected, and that's where I see culture as a huge advantage of a company. And we will remain like being completely reliable, or no, we need to rely a lot in the culture that we have established as a company.
Rafael, it's very interesting what you said. In the new reality, we also need more focus on the human side because we could delegate a lot of tasks to our AI agents. My next question first is about what competencies could you recommend to companies to develop for the employees in the new era? And also, what maybe should they do, maybe focus also more when we talk about connections inside the organization? Because in the past it was simultaneously during the work process, but now it's, as you said, AI agents, they are part of this process, so we have a less cases for connections with others because AI could use that. But what should we do? Maybe some more informal connections, and maybe some informal meetings, and maybe we need develop, for example, some new rituals for saving our culture for keeping our team as a humans, and what types of competencies inside the humans, the, for example, the salespeople, we need to develop to keep this human side, to emphasize this human side in the era of AI. What could you recommend?
We had a very interesting discussion because universities in general, universities as an institution, it's precisely one of the institutions that will need to change the most. In general, our educational system is dedicated to teach students the wrong skills because those are precisely the skills where the AI is more um, is stronger. Um, Knowledge, like having a lot of information on your head, um, memorizing things, being completely dedicated to details. Those are the kind of things where institutions like universities or schools have been preparing us for a long time. But I will say precisely the opposite set of skills are the ones we need to develop and we need to foster. The first one, and I will say the most important one, is communication skills. And when I talk about communication skills, I'm talking about having a coffee with someone and being able to maintain a conversation, a very interesting conversation, and having to ask things is very weird to say that, but one of the things that we have not done properly as a human is to do granular steps towards a specific goal. I need to do A, but A needs to be with B and C and D. We tend to, as a human, we tend to overlap a lot or to jump from A to D without being like assuming that the steps B and C are required, and that's a problem of communication. We have a lot of assumptions in our head. We're very interesting, intelligent species, so we are able to jump very quickly from A to D. But if we need the AI to work properly, we need to make sure that we are very good communicating expectations and communicating steps A, B, C, and D towards the specific goal. The second, like a big set of skills that we need to develop is what I call critical thinking. Critical thinking means to yeah, to do not under to receive the answer from the AI and do not take it for granted, or like not assume that everything is perfect, or try to have a broader set of analysis so you can somehow, it's not fight with the AI, but like to push back the answers and making sure that you're getting exactly what you need, or at least that you are critical with your answer, making sure that the AI like have some perspectives into the answer. I will say that's general for AI and for the general purpose, because all the specific tasks that are related with intelligence or knowledge are going to be made by AI much better than for us, right? But when we are like in a human to human interaction, Rafael and Tatiana are chatting, somehow we need to develop like a second degree of analysis, right? What is called the second degree of thought, because we need to understand, we have to have thoughts on our thoughts, right? We need to understand if what we are analyzing is correct or not correct, and what are the implications of that. That's for me like a huge thing that we need to develop, and is something that in general is not, it has not been part of the academic syllabus, or the things that we have developed in the schools or universities. The third group of skills that we need to develop is what I call mental models. Mental models is like trying not to focus a problem from one single side, but from different perspectives at the same time. And that will mean that you, as a human, if you really want to extract the value of the AI, you need to be as generalist as possible. You need to understand a little bit of statistics, not to be an expert, but you need to understand statistics, you need to understand physics, you need to understand finances, you need to understand human resources. You need to be as generalist as possible, um, because that will enrich a lot the answers or the interactions with AI and also with other humans. As we don't need to be very specific because the AI will be very specific, we need to maintain that like a higher level of connection between different topics, bringing different ideas. I remember someone saying like, I'm trying to answer this problem from the finance perspective, right? But what if we take into account what biology will say about this same problem? What if we take into account psychology? Why do we make decisions that are not financially efficient, right? Because I don't know, it's not the best money about added value for the money we are paying, but we are making some decisions based on psychology. I don't know, because we want to show up, right? So being a generalist in this world is extremely interesting, especially because that's precisely where we add value as a human and where the interactions between human to human are booster, are potential. Um, Meanwhile, the AI could be the specific part of the equation, where it goes very deeply. It is very good at details. It is very good at repetitive tasks and all that stuff. Uh, so I will say, yeah, those are the three huge skills that we need to develop. In general, communication skills, I will say, like, I
Mhm.
will add communication skills to social skills. We need to learn how to interact with each other, how to build relations, how to understand feelings of the person that you are like a meeting with. Um, and based with that, being a generalist with different mental models and being a critical thinker, um, is the triangle that I will say are the skills that we need to develop.
Mhm. Okay, my next question for you is about mistakes. I really like these questions. Usually, we like to talk about success, but the mistakes and our lessons from these mistakes are very important for us. What are the main mistakes companies do during the situation they implement in AI as a new employees from a perspective from a point of view of current employees, from points of view of humans, from a point of view of culture? What are the main mistakes and what should company do to avoid them?
Uh, I would say the first big mistake that we have in the organization is that we have a lot of assumptions and we have a lot of unwritten cultural things that needs to be somehow put into black and white to be able to manage. If you are if your company has a lot of ghosts, a lot of cultural things that are not clear enough, um, it's very hard to manage that or to to develop a culture around that. Let me put an example. If, for example, in this company, every decision needs to be up to the manager or up to the CEO, but that's not a very specific written clause or written rule, but you in general says that everything that the decisions in the company are not moving forward because everything needs to go up for getting an approval. You are not able to manage that culture, and if you are not able to manage that, it's like you won't get where you need to be. So the first thing that we need to start doing is to try to put as clear as possible your culture, whatever it is, because if you don't have like that very specific, you cannot manage that. The second mistake, and it has a lot of things to do with AI, is to try to think some people think AI as a, I don't know, like I always try to think as a book of spells, as a magic book of spells, where you have like a magic words that you put in a system and you receive magic in return, right? If you treat the AI as a magic book where you have like a something miracle happening in the middle, you don't have connection between your inputs and your outputs, and somehow um, it gets lost in the value that you're receiving. But if you, instead of using AI as a magic spell book, and you use as a companion, or as a, I really like the way Microsoft frame it as a copilot. You have someone on your side that is not managing your airplane. It's not like a, yeah, it's not with the control of your airplane, but it's on your side, ready to be helpful. um, and that's where collaboration takes into a place. If you start collaborating with AI, instead of delegating a tool, instead of delegating a task, instead of like expecting miracles on return, but you collaborate because you add value, you add information, you add context, you add expectations, you will return a very good, like a return, right? So you will get a very good return. And so that, I think, is a miracle. It's one of the mistakes that right now a lot of companies are doing, is they trying to focus more on the tools than on the culture, on the tools than on the people, because they think the tools are miracles, and you ask miracles and you receive. You ask spells, or you use magical spells and you get magic in return. That's a huge mistake. But if you understand that this is more a problem of people, that you need to make people start collaborating with AI, that people start using AI as a companion, um, you will be able to get the best of both worlds. That's something that the companies are needs to focus right now. And the third thing that I'm thinking is that sometimes some companies think they can um, enter AI from the top down, right? From like a couple of huge initiatives that are handling by the board, are gonna change the entire results. But when those initiatives start digging down in the company, they face a huge barrier of the people who are not prepared for working with AI. So that's one approach, from the top down. Another approach, some companies are starting bottom up, right? Some companies are saying everyone needs to use AI. Everyone, now you have the tools. Let's go and do whatever you want, but you need to do AI, but with a clear focus, with a clear vision, with no like a very structured way. So people will start doing some improvements. Tatiana will improve their work in, I don't know, 5-10 minutes. Rafael will be able to be 10 minutes more productive, but that will not try, imply like a huge financial impact for the company. So I will say company needs to tackle AI from both sides at the same time, from top down with a huge initiatives and a very clear visions where we need to go, and from the bottom up, creating culture and creating capabilities on every employee, because that will affect every employee. And that's precisely where culture is important. We need to create a culture of agility. We need to create a culture of openness to AI. We need to create a culture where an experimentation culture, where everyone is experimenting with their jobs, with their task, everyday task, trying to make it better, and at the end that will sum up to be like something huge for the company.
Rafael, time is coming so fast. It's really fruitful conversation. And my last questions, it's the usual questions for all my guests. What are three main tips could you give to audience who want to really develop culture and implement more technology, more modern technology in their life, and the from one side, and also save the human side of their business? So three main tips which you could give to this organization.
Okay, I will think again in three very specific things. The first one is the real things in the organization doesn't happen on the org chart. It happens on the real aisles of the company, right? So you need to understand who are your influencers, who are the ones who really move the culture in your company, are not the leaders. Typically, are other people, some leaders, some other guys who are really moving. So, and those are the first uh, incumbers or the first entrance that needs to be part of your cultural change strategy. Those are the guys who you need to touch first because they will help you to develop things on your organization. The second thing is that don't focus on tools. Tools will be the out not longer useful in a couple of months. If you focus only on training on tools, you will lose like a lot of money and you will lose a lot of efforts and you will focus on the wrong thing. You need to focus on the change management side. You need to 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 create a culture that is experimenting fast, is experimenting a lot. Everyone is involved. You need to create a culture that becomes like a huge lab for new innovations and things like that. And that needs to happen all around the company. So that's connected with the first point is, and you create that culture if you get the right people involved and those leaders, those influencers are really moving things around. And I will say the third recommendation is somehow managing culture is very difficult, right? It's complicated, and you need to get everyone aligned with a one or two specific goals, one of two specific features that are achievable but are like challenging enough to not moonshots, but like some kind of challenging goals. That's the role of a leader of the organization to establish a very challenging but achievable goal that will um, collect all the efforts in terms of culture, AI into a single line, because it's very easy to get everyone work in different ways and to waste a lot of resources in the middle. So I will summarize with establish a very clear vision of where you need to get your culture, your company, and your AI. um, Understand who are your influencers, who are the guys who really move the culture in between, and make sure that you train on skills, you train on culture, you train on capabilities, and not to train on tools. Um, Making sure that you have something that lasts in your organization.
Okay, thanks a lot for this wonderful conversation. Thanks a lot for all ideas to share with us. I think it's a lot of insights for our audience. Thanks a lot for participation. I think what our conversation was really interesting. It's about the new employees organization, our AI agents, and what should they do with the culture inside the organization in this new era to stay human for one side and also for improving our effectiveness of our business. Thanks a lot for this conversation.
Thank you for inviting me. Very nice to have this conversation.
This is podcast Happy at Work. My name is Tatiana Koval. Stay connected.